Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's classic hits radio.
I wanted to move on to the general election. And it's pretty much definite now that the general election will be held on the 29th of November. Speaking of scary stories, the general election is a scary story, by the way. We will be taking some of your scary stories later on because it is Halloween, right? Don't forget, we're not forgetting about Halloween. But according to the latest polling average, Fianna Fáil has made gains to pull closer to Fine Gael, and Sinn Féin support seems to have slumped. The latest Red C polls puts Fianna Fáil at 21%, up 3 points since the last poll, only 1 point behind Fine Gael. Sinn Féin support was at 17% in the survey. Now, Sinn Féin, of course, their support has dropped from the high 20s right down to the mid-teens now at this stage. The drop in popularity of Mary Lou McDonald's party this year has opened up a path to re-election for the current government, which probably wouldn't have happened if they hadn't have had that slump. Fine Gael has seen a rise in support following the appointment of Simon Harris, and Mr Harris took over Fine Gael in April, you might remember, after Leo Varadkar jumped ship after a slump in popularity under Leo's leadership, with support now averaging around 23%. Fianna Fáil and the Green Party have remained relatively steady at about 21%, and the Greens at 4%. Anyway, but I want to hear from our listeners. What are your thoughts? Where are you, or who are you going to vote for when you head to the polling station on the 29th of November? Because it will be the 29th, I'm pretty sure now at this stage. Everybody's saying it is. Let us know what you think. You can WhatsApp us on 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. And for the purpose of this particular show, I should put my impartiality hat on, even though I wouldn't vote for any of them. I'll put my impartiality hat on. And let me go to Pauline first if I can. Pauline, hi, how are you?
Hi, Niall.
Good.
Oh, goodness. What are we going to do? We have to get these parties out. If people don't get these parties out, and I hope what you've just told us is not true, we are dealing with a group of people in all parties, and they make sure to get the speech law thing halfway through. They won't give up on that because, like I said, it's coming from the UN, sorry. If we don't get these parties out, what this country is looking at and the feelers that were being put out during the week with, as it just happened, your programme was discussing the effects of the pandemic and how did we feel about them. That is the government. I'd say their ears were pricked because they're actually telling you, just like Simon Coveney did, is that his name? A few minutes. What's your man's name, Simon?
Simon Harris, the leader of the country, yeah.
Simon Harris was telling you a few minutes ago, telling people, he's inquiring, looking at the way the pandemic went, and they're going to have a special team and a special person. Wake up, people. They're telling you they're going to do it again. They're only putting out feelers to see what you will with the likes of what your programme happened to be talking about the other night, and the reaction, 97% of people won't put up with it again. They're putting out the feelers to see what are people going to put up with.
I mean, look, but no, hang on, Polly. In relation to the inquiry was suggested nearly a year and a half ago. They've been putting it on hold constantly. The only reason they mentioned the inquiry this week is because there's an election coming up and they want to make the people look like they seem that they're doing something about it. That inquiry probably won't happen until the middle of next year. And that's provided this government gets back in again, which they will probably. But that inquiry won't happen until the middle of next year. So they're only putting that out there because there's an election coming up and they want people to think, oh, look at the government, aren't they great? Aren't they doing something about the COVID-19 reaction, blah, blah, blah. That's the only reason
they're putting out the feelers to see how will they do it the next time, because it's going to come from Tedros, who should be given the electric chair for wiping out half of the Ethiopians. I'm sorry, Niall, but that
I know you're very vocal about it, Pauline, and yet you know what? You are right in a sense that they want to see what the outcome was and how they dealt with the last pandemic in case, and their words, not mine, it happens again. Yeah. Okay, but Pauline, let's just move, because you always drag me into some sort of world, and I understand, Pauline, you have a very different way of thinking, to some other people, and that's fine too. Everyone's entitled to have a view on everything, right? But so who are you? Well, if you don't want to vote for the government, right, and that's fair enough, you don't want to vote for, Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil or the Greens, so who are you going to vote for?
If the people in this country do not get the puppets, the World Economic Forum puppets, out of government, and every party's involved in it, and get some independence in, you are looking at lockdowns when the World Health Organization, Tedros, the head of it that I just mentioned, decide for any apparent reason, because they can, that the country's going into lockdown.
So who? Well, I want to know who you're voting for.
I'm going to tell you who I'm voting for and why. You're looking at the people living in 15-minute cities and needing permission from your county council to leave them. You're looking, let me just finish now. You're looking at being allowed to leave your country, as in to visit or to go on holiday once every 3 years. A cashless society, completely controlled. And as for, Elon Musk, chipping people, chipping your kids, I don't think so. Don't be deceived by him. Vote for independence if you want any hope of stopping this. And they're using Ireland.
But you haven't told me yet who you're voting for.
I just said vote for independence.
Have you got a person in mind?
Any independent, anything to get.
But there's independents out there that are loopers.
It doesn't matter what they are; they're independent. They're not.
But that's not that. But why would you vote for a looper? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some great independents out there, but there's one or two independents out there. I wouldn't trust them with me child or me dog, for that matter.
We can deal with the independents on an individual basis. We can wean them out as the year goes by or whenever the next election comes up. You vote the parties back in, and you are looking at a load of rougher puppets.
I get the point that you're making, and I know you're not happy with the government, but if you voted in over 150 independents, you will have no government. And the reason is because they all think differently, and that some of them are complete and utter loopers. The country would be destroyed. Absolutely destroyed within 6 months. There has to be cohesion in government. There has to be groups of people that agree with each other, not just a load of people who all have different views on how everything should be done. So that'll never work. Pauline, thank you very much indeed, but I do agree there's some great independents out there. Mike, hi, how are you, Mike?
Niall, how things?
Good, Mike. Mike, so, look, everybody is saying, well, not everybody, but some people are saying they're not happy with the government. Clearly, 21% of people are happy with Fianna Fáil, and 17% are happy with Sinn Féin, and I think it's 20% are happy with Fine Gael. So, but the rest of them are not clearly happy. So who will you be voting for?
I'll be voting. I will be voting for the party, Niall. But that amazes me there. Like, in all fairness, and don't get me wrong, and I'm very frustrated and very mad at the government over the hospital, over the fact that there's no accountability and there's no transparency. The thing with the bike shed, the thing with the hospital, that no head would roll over a thing like that. The person that signed up in that hospital inside in Dublin, like, Siberia, he should be sent there. And more return tickets. Because, like, is it out in the motorway there near Kildare there, the other side of the M50 there, that hospital should have been built. Where the road going up to that hospital is any wider than the road going to Kilgarvan, like, Niall.
Yeah, I know.
You know?
I know.
The infrastructure. But the thing about it is, sure, the independence there, even after the last, when they were trying to form a government the last time, sure, when the independents trying to get a team together, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so what we need, like, as I said,
but this is why I said to Pauline, you know, having 150 or whatever independents in the Dáil would be pointless because they wouldn't agree with each other. And there's a few independents out there that are complete loopers. You know what I mean?
She's not in touch with reality.
No, you have to have some sort of level of cohesion. I understand that. But I do understand people's frustration, Mike, because the only choice they have really, when you look at the big parties, is, you know, three parties, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin. And a lot of people don't agree with their policies. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Sinn Féin are just the same as the government, just a bit more.
No. And I'll tell you this. Okay, right, I'd be voting Fine Gael, but I could not vote Fianna Fáil.
But here's the thing. You're telling me you're going to vote for Fine Gael, but you've just give out about them for the last 10 minutes about how they failed miserably and how they're not transparent and how they're making bad decisions with the hospital and all of these things. So what makes you think it's going to be any different if you vote for them this time?
But to see what you have to go back to the time when Enda Kenny came in, like when we had the crowd,
the Troika, yeah,
the Troika and all that in the country. Like what I think, like what Enda Kenny done that time, I thought for the country was massive. Okay, the big mistake that Enda Kenny made was when he bring in the water charges that he didn't bring in so much per house. Give it €100 a house. Mm-hmm. They'll probably got away with that. They'll probably have cost it in, but. Like, people expecting to get water and not pay for it now. In all fairness, like, that you know, you don't miss water and the well run dry.
Yeah, but hold on, Mike. With the greatest respect, people probably wouldn't have minded paying for water if the cost of living wasn't so high. People can't afford another bill. Look at the outrageous bills we have already for utilities in this country. You know, Ireland is nearly the most expensive place in the world to fill your car up, or the most expensive place in the world to heat your home or light your home. So people don't want to be paying for any more utilities. That's not going to happen. If they turned around tomorrow and tried to introduce water charges again, there'd be murder.
Well, but I'm saying that,
and rightly so, by the way, because you can't keep burdening the people with bills.
I definitely no, yes, but back then, like, and look at the progress that the country has made since then, okay? You know, and so we're nearly in full employment. Okay, like this whole refugee thing and all that, like that has put the country and cost the country.
Yeah, but don't just sign that off as some sort of small thing. That's a big problem. Because what it's doing is, we already had a housing crisis. We've had that for the last 3 successive governments, right? We've a housing crisis, which is now being compounded by the fact that we have, you know, over 130,000 or 40,000 people come into the country over the last year and a half or 2 years. So, you know, don't just write that off as some sort of small problem. That's a massive problem. When I was running for election back in June, in the European elections, it was one of the biggest issues. You know, the chaotic immigration policy.
Without a shadow of a doubt, 100%. You're 100% right. But, like, tis to make people responsible for their actions, Niall. And that there is, like, to see your man there in the OPW there and the way he tried to justify that, like, that shouldn't be tolerated, Niall. And I don't know what the answers are to fix that problem, like.
But Mike, you're kind of speaking. I don't want to be giving out to you, but you're kind of speaking out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying all these things in the OPW and the lack of transparency and the lack of accountability for overspending and all that shouldn't be put up with, right? But then you're telling me you're going to vote for them again. Like, that to me doesn't make any sense. Now, what the only thing I'm getting from what you're saying is it's a Hobson's choice. Is that what you're telling me?
What is the alternative?
Well, that's what you're telling me then. It's a Hobson's choice. You're telling me they're the best of the bad lot. Is that what you're saying?
Without a shadow of a doubt. But what I'm also saying, Niall, is that this is going to how it's going to change, I don't know. I'm just a knowledge or so. But that there is accountability and people have to be responsible for their actions. Like, for the person to sign up, 365,000 for a bike shed, like, and not a word about it. Like, that's not right. That's and then you have the relative ministers in, and they're pushing it under the blanket, under the carpet, or whatever you want to call it, like, and that. That's not. But, like, you see what the government's done there during the pandemic, Niall. They did go beyond to help families and help people and all that. Like, you have to look at the positive things. Like, they are trying to build a lot of houses and that now, but
trying and doing are two different things. Since in the last 5 years, it would be fair to say the housing problem has got worse. The cost of housing has gone through the roof. The average young person and young couple in this house can't afford to live here anymore. The cost of living has gone through the roof, and the government are doing very little about it. Immigration is chaotic, and the government are doing very little about it. We're having protests on a weekly basis in relation to immigration and other issues, like including the hate speech laws and all those kind of things. And Fine Gael are the ones supervising all of that. And Fianna Fáil, by the way, can I point out, and the Greens. So, I mean, are you telling me that the only reason you're voting for Fine Gael is because they're the best of the three?
Yes, and I could never vote Fianna Fáil, or I couldn't vote Sinn Féin.
And what's wrong with what do you think is wrong with Fianna Fáil? What's their problem? I know Fianna Fáil are not the same party they were 20 years ago, but I mean, what do you think the problem is? I think they're pretty much the same.
Niall, and I'll admit that it's me that has the problem in that. Like, but this is going back, and I'm the same age as Joseph now, Niall, but this is just going back to the start of time, like the Civil War. Right. And I can't help that now. But I just
that's okay. That's understandable.
You know,
that's another point of principle. Yeah, point of principle.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I also think then, Niall, that since Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil came together, that it has improved Micheál Martin's ratings. Because go back to before that happened, Micheál Martin was only hanging on with his string of a thread, like. Yeah. But now he's he's doing okay. But you know,
And I just finally, before I go into the break, what do you think of Simon Harris as a leader? Do you think he's good enough for the job, or is he too immature?
Niall, a good question. But I'd prefer him than Varadkar, because in my opinion, my only opinion, we have an opinion, that Varadkar had a thing when he was going into government, and he got through what he wanted to get through, and then he went off into the twilight. I take exception to that, like. But look, I may be wrong in my thoughts, like, but this thing of same-sex marriage and this thing of same-sex couples able to adopt, I don't think, you know.
Okay, you don't agree with it. That's fine. That's your opinion.
Oh, Jesus Christ, no, Ned, how can, you know, I'm sorry.
Well, mind you, he didn't agree with it either back in 2011, but he changed his mind. Anyway, but no, that's okay. Everyone's entitled to their view, Mike. Okay, so you think the country has just gone far too left for too long, but Fine Gael are quite left-leaning anyway, so, I mean, that's entirely up to you, Mike.
Niall, and you ran for politics.
I did.
What do you think is going to happen after the next? And I admire you, Niall. And the thing about, you know, politics, like, in all fairness, Niall, do you see what the TDs are going through? And let them be, like, you know, it's horrendous what they're going through, like, you know, that it's the dirtiest game.
Oh, yeah.
Any person could get involved in, like that.
Oh, you got to have a thick skin, Mike.
Like a jockey's.
Yeah, jockeys, you know what.
A jockey's neck. We say a jockey's neck. Yeah.
All right, well, listen, Mike, it's been lovely talking to you. Thanks very much, Mike. Helen, I'm going to have to come to you after the break because I have to take a break and gone over time. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Mike, and also Pauline, before that, who had a very different view of things. But I want to ask you, who will you be voting for? The general election will be most likely on the 29th of November. It looks like it's definite now. The government will be calling it probably early next week. I want to know who you will be voting for. Who will you be voting for? The number is 087 188 0008. That's 087 188 0008. Somebody said in a text there, Niall, why are you only saying Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the Greens are in government? Are all the parties not in government? See, here's the problem, right? When people don't even know who's running the country, how are they supposed to vote? Let me go to Helen. Helen, hi, how are you?
Hello, Niall. Good evening, Joe.
Good. Helen, okay, so, I mean, I'm looking at, you know, the polls here, you know, and Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael still doing okay. Sinn Féin dropped down a little bit, but you want to give Sinn Féin your vote. Why?
I want to see Mary Lou as Taoiseach. That's why.
First female Taoiseach of Ireland. Yeah, okay.
Of course, yes. And I want to... Now, let it be either Pierce Doherty or Mary Lou McDonald. I don't mind switch them.
Okay.
But, like, I want Sinn Féin in power. Yeah.
And have you always been a Sinn Féin supporter?
Now, your microphone is a bit scratchy there at your end. I can...
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know why, Helen. Maybe it's just a dodgy line or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But have you always been a Sinn Féin supporter?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what about the kind of scandals of the last few weeks in particular, I suppose, seem to have damaged Sinn Féin somewhat. Have you taken any of that into consideration, or to you are they just individual events that they have no control over?
Well, exactly. Like they are individual events, like, and it happens in every party, doesn't it?
Mm.
Do you know?
Do you think they've been a good opposition for the last 5 years? Because I don't know whether they've been a very strong opposition to government.
Well, I think they've been very good. I really do.
Mm. And you think Mary Lou is fit for the job? Give her a shot.
I think so. God, I think so, yes.
Actually, could it be any worse, I suppose, really? I suppose is the question.
Huh?
Could it be any worse is the thing you could ask yourself, really, couldn't it?
Well, yes, you could look at it like that, yes. But I mean, the show that's in there, like, we need change. We really do.
Mm-hmm. And you think Sinn Féin will offer you that change?
I think so, yes. I really do.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, Helen, just stay there for a second because I want to go to Billy as well. Billy, hi, how are you?
Hello, Niall, how are you?
There you go. Helen says she wants change and she believes that Sinn Féin might offer that change. And hey, first female Taoiseach of Ireland.
More power to her in exercising her vote. I would never vote Sinn Féin, ever.
Mm-hmm. Different strokes, different folks.
And that's the joy of it, Niall. I'm when Molly called me there, she asked me who I'm voting for, and I put my cards on the table, Niall. For the last, last 5 general elections, I would have voted for Fine Gael.
Okay, but you're not this time.
But I'm not this time. I had 2 of them call to my front door the other day, Niall, and I said to them, I don't think I'll be voting for you this time, lads. And they didn't even ask me why. I just get the feeling that they don't really care this time. That the polls have them so far ahead that they think that they're just going to...
They're a shoe-in, yeah.
So 1 vote doesn't really matter to them, unfortunately, but I think that's problematic for a party. They've been in power for 14 years now. I think they've gotten a little bit too comfortable. And being honest with you, there's elements of the performance over the last number of years that I'm not happy with at all.
Okay. And so who are the options, apart from independents, who realistically don't have a huge amount of power? Yes, they can say a lot, they can question the government in the chambers, but they don't have a huge amount of power individually.
There is no option side. There is no options. The only option we have at the moment is to get Sinn Féin in there to run this country, right?
They want to ruin the country.
Hold on. Get Sinn Féin in to run the country, right? And maybe a couple of good independents with him, like the Healy Rays and people like that will stand up and will fight for the people, you know?
Sinn Féin haven't been able to put a budget submission in for the last 10 years that added up.
Yeah, that's your opinion. But I tell you, look, what we have at the moment is we have a hospital that's overrun, right? My God, it's gone into billions. It's gone into billions. There's over 158 billion in savings in this country, right? 357,000 for a bike shed.
Yeah, right? And that's disgraceful as well.
A couple more million for security.
You think the shady Belfast are going to run the government?
9 million for pouches, for phones for teenagers. For God's sake, have yourself on, will you?
Sinn Féin are going to do any better.
Have yourself on.
Sinn Féin are going to do any better. Not a chance. And I'm not disagreeing with you. All that waste is disgraceful.
Have yourself on.
But you need to... I'm agreeing with you. Stop telling me to clap myself on when I'm agreeing with you. Please. The waste is disgraceful. The 9 million on phone is disgraceful.
Do you know, Niall, I can't hear very well because they're scratching on both sides.
Okay, I do apologise, that, and I don't know why, because I can't hear the scratchy noises. But the point that Billy is making is he's agreeing with you, Helen. He said it is terrible wastage. The hospital, the pouches, the bike sheds, the security hut, all of that stuff, the mismanagement of COVID, all of that stuff is really bad. But he's wondering why you think Sinn Féin will be any better, because their budgets really don't add up. Any budget they brought out, their alternative budgets that they brought out in the last 3 elections, they really haven't been any better.
Yeah, but that's what the government want people to believe. That's what they want us to believe.
Not what the government want people to believe. It's a fact. The money that Sinn Féin want to spend is not there.
I mean, Sinn Féin's latest offering is that they want to give free medication, like in the UK, or free prescriptions to everybody. I mean, I was looking last night at the cost of that in the UK, and I can't remember now, but or Northern Ireland, should I say. The cost of Northern Ireland alone, which is a small population of 1.7 million people, is somewhere around 6 billion. I think it's about that, some ridiculous figure. We couldn't probably afford it, Helen. It's easy. It's easy to run for election and say, I give you this, this, and this. But if you can't afford it, that doesn't make sense. That's just my view.
The lead opposition party, Niall, has the ability to be the...
I can't hear.
Sorry, Helen. Can I make my point?
Okay, make your point there, Billy, go on.
The lead opposition party has the ability to sit and be hurlers on the ditch, Niall. They can make promises, they can guarantee things. Look what's happened with Labour in the UK with the budget that they brought in the last couple of days.
Disaster.
We'll see if it's a disaster or not, but in their manifesto they said no tax increases in the next 5 years. They brought in £41 billion of tax increases for the budget that they brought in. So yes, it's going to hurt people. But they were left with such a bad state of affairs when they left that, their manifesto's out the window.
Okay, but the point she's making, unfortunately we've lost Helen there, she had a bad line, I think. The point she was making was, Billy, it couldn't be any worse than it is, I suppose.
It could be. It could be a hell of a lot worse. It could be a hell of a lot worse. And if you say to me that it couldn't be a lot worse, obviously you've got a very short memory going back to 2008, and going back beyond to recessions before that. It could be a hell of a lot worse. And I'm not here to defend the government and the way things have been run in the last 5 years. Not a chance. I think they've had an absolute failing in justice, in defence, in health. The gross overspend on the Children's Hospital, the gross overspend on bike sheds. They have not been a good government. Let's be honest. But it could always get worse now. And the other point is, the one thing that annoys me with every general election that comes up is we change the people at the head of the department. We'll get a new Minister for Health. We'll get a new Minister for Finance. But we don't look at the people behind the veil, the people in the permanent government who implement the decisions and set policy out going out beyond a couple of years. And those are the people who are in charge, like the person who's in charge of the Office of Public Works that put up that bike shed. He's not an elected official. He has a budget to spend. He is not held accountable. That is a problem.
Well, nobody seems to be getting held accountable anymore. That, to me, that is one of the biggest problems in government, that there is no accountability.
100%. There is no accountability there.
Stay there a second. Let me go to Rob. Rob, how are you doing?
Evening to you all. Are you well?
Sorry? Who are you voting for, Rob?
Who am I voting? Aintu, I suppose.
Aintu, okay. Peadar Tóibín.
I'm looking for... Yeah, Peadar Tóibín. And unfortunately, they're a small little party. But the reason I'm going there is this country is in bad need of a proper conservative government.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, certainly we're in bad need of a conservative choice. And Aintu are probably one of the only conservative choices.
And somebody with conservative values, this woke nonsense is just driving me berserk now.
Mm-hmm.
The no accountability thing is unbelievable with this. I call these guys a regime because I'm looking at that poor little child, Kyron, is it, or Kieran? There's no accountability. Kyron,
yeah, sorry,
the 6-year-old.
Yeah,
and he's lost. No one knows anything about him.
It does seem like a rather bizarre story. I don't want to get into it too much because obviously it would be insensitive of us to do that. But it does seem a bizarre story. But I agree with you in relation to the wokeness. Actually, it's a little bit of a funny story for both of you. I watched a video there tonight of a police officer in America stopping this guy in a car, and he said, "Can you give me your license, sir?" And he said, "I'm not a sir." And he said, "Okay." He said, "What are you?" He says, "You've are misgendered me." And he says, "Well, what are you?" He says, "I identify as feline, as a cat." And he said, "What? Really?" He said, "Step out of the car." He said, "Because in the state of California, it's illegal for a cat to drive a car." Anyway, which I thought was very funny. Anyway,
yeah, I like it.
No. But Rob, look, so you're telling me that it's based on the kind of wokeness, it's based on the liberal pursuits of the government.
It's extreme. All the parties now... To me, it looks to me as if every single one of them are extreme left parties, which I find bizarre. I would have thought Fine Gael would have been on the right.
No, well, Fianna Fáil used to be conservative years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, FF, yeah.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying? Am I right?
What are you saying, Billy?
Fianna Fáil would have been a centre-left party. Fine Gael would have been a centre-right party. That was the...
in my dad's day, the Fianna Fáil were for the holy people. You know what I mean? They could be considered the...
You think about the legacy of Fianna Fáil, where it came from Eamon de Valera and his buddy Charles McQuaid, the sign-off on the Constitution from the Catholic Church, yes. But they would have tried to appeal to people as well through being the party of the people, giving people giveaways. Most of the giveaway budgets up until recent times were Fianna Fáil budgets with Fianna Fáil ministers. Remember, Charlie McCreevy was famous for them.
Yeah.
So they would have been party on the left, giving people money back.
What Billy is saying? Okay, Aintu are not a big party, the 1 TD party. They could be the 5 TD party or 10 TD party after the next election.
Something,
you never know. I mean, they've made a bit of a name for themselves, considering it's just Peadar in the Dáil, Billy. And he does ask all the right questions, and he is a hard-working man, and they seem to be a good party. Would you give them any kudos?
I'd have to see a manifesto before I give them kudos, and also, as I said previously, I'd never vote Sinn Féin, and Peadar came from Sinn Féin, so I don't know how closely aligned Peadar would be to Sinn Féin and some of Sinn Féin's other policies that I don't agree with.
He
from them, isn't he?
Yeah, he left Sinn Féin because of his pro-life stance, wasn't it?
In fairness to him, he did, and I appreciate that he is a man of morals and principles, and he stuck to those by leading the party.
Yeah.
So even if I don't necessarily agree with it, I respect him for it.
Yeah. That was the reason I think that he finished up with Sinn Féin. And by the way, just because somebody's a politician with Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin or whatever, Labour, doesn't necessarily mean they agree with all of their policies. They have to obviously they're run by the whip, you know what I mean? So they have to kind of go along with it, even though they don't agree with everything they say. But they might agree with most.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I want to ask you a quick question. Sinn Féin, were they on the right at one stage? Am I wrong in thinking that?
Well, Sinn Féin would have been a much more conservative party than they are now. Absolutely.
Then what happened? Yeah.
I don't know what happened. It's called playing to the gallery, isn't it? Is that what they call it? Playing to the gallery? I mean, look, I don't think they've been a good opposition for 5 years. I think they were quite silent. For example, during COVID-19, I think they were very silent. They didn't have a lot to say. In fact, some of the restrictions they wanted to bring in were worse. In relation to the hate speech laws, they all voted for them. Now they're telling us they don't agree with them, but they all voted for them. In relation to the referendum, they told everyone to vote yes, and they even went as far as saying if they didn't get the yes vote, they'd rerun the referendum. So they haven't been a great opposition party.
But now, Sinn Féin are they're a populist party. They will go with what they believe is popular, and if it's not popular, they'll change their position. They stand for nothing, really.
Yeah, they go whichever way the wind seems to blow. But that's obviously what opposition parties do. Sorry, Rob, what else are you going to say there? Oh, we've lost Rob there for a second. He's swinging
Sounds like he's in Lidl or something.
He does sound like he's in Lidl or something, yeah. Rob, are you in Lidl? Doing your shopping? Oh, jeez. Michael, hi, how are you?
How's it going?
It sounds like Rob is buying a lot of stuff in Lidl there. Listen to all those beeping.
I just got me groceries.
There you go. I knew that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Michael. What do you want to say?
I'm pretty open minded. Like, I'm 21. Like, I'm young. I'm kind of. I wouldn't be kind of big into the history of politics really, but like what I can see now is that I would vote more sort of aim to independent Ireland. Like, I'm sort of over the whole woke thing. Like, I've kind of grown up in it, and like I had half of my life, like as a younger child, where it wasn't. It was more Christian, and then the rest of it was all woke. And I have to I've lived sort of between both worlds.
Yeah, it kind of changed very quickly, didn't it, over the last 20 years? Yeah.
But yeah, it changed a lot. Yeah, it changed a lot. But I'm just sort of like, especially with COVID, like I'm sort of over, the current government and who they have involved. Like with COVID, I thought with COVID now it was a bit of a joke. Like we all had to get vaccinated and whatnot. And if you look at the stats on it now, like I'm not going to turn into a Bobby Kennedy, but like you were 300% more likely to have a heart attack within 6 months of getting the COVID vaccine, where you were better off not getting it in the first place. Like, we were forced to get that. Well, I was anyway.
Well, I know there is evidence out there of myocarditis, particularly in young men.
Sorry, can I just
But I don't know where that particular stat you just kind of plucked out of the air, Michael, came from. I don't think it's that high. I mean, absolutely, if it was a young person, I didn't believe it was necessary probably to get the vaccine. The vaccine, I was always of the opinion, you make your own choice. If you want to get it, get it. If you don't, you don't. You shouldn't be chastised for not getting it. But Michael, I don't want to talk about COVID. We spent an hour talking about it last night. So, Billy, I'll come back to you in a second. So, Michael, have you decided who you're going to vote for? You're telling me who you're not going to vote for, but who are you going to vote for? Ain't to? Is that what you're saying to me?
I'm thinking either Ain2 or Independent Ireland. I'm not 100%. I'm going to have to keep, I didn't know it was going to come up so close. And, we have 6 weeks to sort of decide. It's sort of a bit of a snap. I mean, that's good for Fine Gael, because, they're on a kind of a good place right now. But, I'd be more, whichever one's more conservative. And, I like what Independent Ireland are saying now they're sort of going through how much waste that we've had, between the billions that we spent giving to Ukraine, health.
Yeah, much we're spending on immigration and much we're spending on all of that kind of stuff. There's and NGOs. Yeah. They go on a lot about how much we're spending, $7 billion on NGOs. There were some good NGOs, by the way, but there's some really bad ones too.
Overinflated. Yeah, we've got an overinflated sort of sector, don't we? For a small country,
Yeah.
But no, I'd sort of I suppose more of a common sense party. We have sort of we have a group in government now, and I heard a caller like earlier on. He was talking, or she was talking about how, I'm giving out about like, I don't like this and that. And I find that with my parents and stuff, they'll give out about the government. And then they'll go, there's an election, they'll vote for them again. It's like
I know.
So we all give out and love to moan, and then we'll go on. Okay, now the election's up. Now it's time to make your vote count and change.
Yeah, just on that note, before we go into the news, Billy, why is it, do you think, that the electorate seem to have, when it comes to politicians, Stockholm syndrome? And they do this thing where they give out about the government or the political parties, and then they go and vote for them again.
So now in Ireland, we have a 2.5-party system. It's pretty, and it has been that way for the bones of the last 100 years, where the two larger parties were Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, centre-left, centre-right, and then the third half-party was Labour, traditionally.
Well, they're doomed. They're not doomed. Do they even exist anymore?
If you listen to another broadcaster, former politician and former bookmaker, he's saying they might get up to 12 seats and may make up the next government. So depending on how it goes, they may be the third leg on the new stool. It's a case that the political system that has existed in Ireland has existed since the 1930s in the format that it's in, and it is very difficult to change that, because where's the new incumbent going to come from? But
I love the American political system to a degree.
The American political system is extremely broken now.
I know that. No, what I'm saying is they could do it an extra party, right? But what I'm saying is, I love the idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you despise Kamala or despise Trump, it's irrelevant. I love the idea that at least you have two polar opposites. They could do it something in the middle.
You don't. And I to be honest with you, I despise the American political system, and I do quite like what we have here, because it is proportional representation through single transferable vote. It means that you don't have the extremes that you will get in places like America or the UK with a first past the post vote system. I know it takes longer and it's more in depth, and we probably need to do a lot more.
Well, you know what? I was loving that voting system up until the 19 count in the European elections.
I'm sure you were. And
I'd lay on a rating, got 14,000 votes from the Greens, and then I said to myself, I don't like this system anymore. Yeah,
but Niall, it is a remarkably fair voting system that has been in place in this country for 110 years.
Absolutely. Listen, Billy and Michael and Rob, listen, I have run out of time, unfortunately.
Now, real people, real opinions. Nighttime Talk with Niall Boylan.
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.